Professor locked me out from taking a quiz for showing up at exactly 8 a.m. when class starts. I showed up at exactly 8 a.m., the clock literally just changed from 7:59, and when I went to open the door, the professor slammed it back against me and gave me a nasty look. This guy lets in kids who are late but slammed the door for me, at 8 a.m. The quiz had not even started. Since I had to take a 0, my quiz average dropped significantly. This is 1/3 of our grade. I went up to him after class, he let me in after the quiz, and he told me too bad, I should have showed up at 7:59. I was on time. I feel like this is incredibly unreasonable and I do not know what to do. Edit, emailed department chair, she basically talked to him and said that the quiz had already started so I need to go to his office hours and try and deal with it on my own. Edit, my final grade drops from an A to a B+, only 3 points but still significant. Edit, appreciate the somewhat harsh feedback, I do need to be earlier. I literally show up like 7:57 every class and never have a problem. I just thought it was crazy to make my grade suffer when I was there at the stated time. But yes, I know how important timing is IRL. To everyone saying I'm clearly lying, I took this screenshot when I was standing outside showing my professor my phone. 8 o'clock on the dot. Edit, I've been banned from commenting. Response 1.
Talk to a higher up about this 100%. I hate professors like this.
Yup, go straight to the department head and escalate. If you notice retaliation, compare your work and grade to that of peers after this incident and see if they're clearly grading you down out of spite, then go straight back to the department head again. If they won't do anything, go above their head too. Finally, if that doesn't work, as a last resort, and accepting the possible consequences, get a big ass sign and protest in front of whichever building is appropriate, calling out the professor and administration. If you want to be especially spiteful, do it at the same time as a campus tour for new students.
Yeah, doing it during a campus tour would be the only thing they'd remotely care about.
Can that have any repercussions for you, like getting kicked out?
Ha ha ha, sure they can kick you out. You can also go talk to a lawyer right after they do that and have the media blast the school, then transfer someplace else.
Yeah, let's wager this guy's life. Fuck a college degree when that's clearly what he wants. Take it all the way, man. You got this.
No point in attending a school with goals of obtaining a degree, when you can't take tests and quizzes for a single class you need, even when you show up on time.
Response 2.
Quote, this guy lets in kids who are late all the time but slammed the door for me, at 8 a.m. This is very unacceptable behavior and can be seen as a form of favoritism. You need to go above this professor because it sounds to me like they have a problem with specifically you. This is beyond unfair.
Not to defend the professor, but letting in people late for a lecture is different than letting people in late for a test or quiz. My programming professor lets people show up 15 minutes late for normal class before closing the door, but on exams he only has the door open for maybe 5 minutes since he spends those minutes giving instructions, since the tests might have a weird format or open-ended segment. After that you are shit out of luck and have to find some way to retake a different version of the test.
Quote, he only has the door open for maybe 5 minutes. Showed up at literally the start time though.
Response 3.
Deleted.
I honestly can't understand it at all. People have schedules and responsibilities. They pay for the classes, so if they're late, they're already missing out. There is no need to further lock them out and just make them waste their tuition. The only time it's acceptable is if someone is causing a significant disturbance.
Seriously, most of these people are paying with significantly bad student loans. I don't care how prestigious your college is, you have zero right to punish them more than they are already punishing themselves by not getting there early.
Response 4.
Oh, I would go to the department chair, the dean, the university president, or whatever it takes. That's straight bullshit. Should I CC the professor in my email to the department chair? Depends, how do you feel about dead rats nailed to your door? Don't give AS, I'm a senior about to graduate and really dislike this guy.
Don't be petty. It will not help your case, even if you are in the right. Don't emulate your professor's attitude.
So don't CC him. Email is straightforward. Don't mean to be petty, I'm assuming he'll come across it eventually.
I would not CC him. You don't want him to retaliate before you've talked to the higher ups.
Response 5.
He locked you out for being a couple seconds late. Excuse my language, but he is an asshole. Plain and simple. Speak to the director of the program. Hopefully she will fix it. This guy's ego is really out of control. I'm an ECN major and this is a sociology stats class. Who thought it was going to be sociology giving me all the problems?
Well, honestly, every single sociology teacher I've had, 3 of them so far, have given me similar treatment, especially in terms of favoritism and extremely unfair and strict punishments such as this. I had one that split the class into 2 sections, one being the smart side, and the other being the dumb side, and then began to load the smart side with extra things to do if we wanted to pass the class. Another one was prejudiced and failed my assignments despite being nearly identical to my classmate, who had high grades in the class. And then another tried to publicly shame me for using electronics in the classroom when I need them to help with a handwriting disability. I walked out when he blatantly interrupted my reasoning. Is there something with sociology that teaches that this stuff is okay?
Quote, is there something with sociology that teaches that this stuff is okay? No, there definitely isn't. Best professors I had undergrad were sociology professors. Probably a better indicator of where the college university's priorities are. If they don't care much about sociology, you'll get a shitty department.
Response 6.
Since you're a senior about to graduate, how much time and effort do you want to put into this? If you are going on to your masters, you probably already have placement, and if this is it for you, you probably have pretty terrific grades. Or you wouldn't be so concerned. If I could give myself one do-over from college, it would have been to put just slightly less pressure on myself. Remind myself that companies recruit from the 7 school in the country as well as 1-6, and that they don't mind B+ students. It doesn't make what your teacher did fair, but school is stressful enough. Choose your battles. Life only gets harder. Relevant perspective. I tend to be stubborn and this might not be worth the exhaustion, time and effort.
Not for nothing, but C's get degrees. When your future jobs ask to see your diploma, your GPA isn't printed on there.
Disagree. For competitive fields, GPA is incredibly important for entry-level internship, i.e. banking, finance, actuarial, etc. I had a friend get asked why his GPA was so low in an interview. He had a 3.4. That's a high B+ average.
I'm 43 and have never been asked my GPA ever, but that is anecdotal. However, I was trying to make a point. To make you feel better and stop stressing about one grade. You are not being hired for your past, so make sure to show that your future is promising.
Countering with an anecdote of mine, pretty much every job application I've ever done has required me to list my GPA, well, the British classification equivalent. Your situation is 2 decades removed from OP's situation. Remember that times can change, and competitive fields are only getting more and more selective. You're right that no one is hiring for your past, but since we don't have crystal balls, the past is a good predictor of the future. It might be nice to get up not to stress, but the flip side is that you might be encouraging them to be overly complacent about something it seems they have a chance of doing something about.
Response 7.
Have you had any problems with this professor before? Have any of the classmates that you trust had a problem with the professor before? If the professor has caused problems with many students in the class or has exhibited similar behavior to you or others, go straight to the department chair with this. No need to deal with the nonsense if it is continuous. If you haven't had problems before with this professor, and you don't know of anyone else who has a similar experience with the professor, don't go directly to the department chair or higher-up person. Instead, email the professor to set up a time to meet to discuss what happened. One of 4 things will probably happen. 1. The professor will realize that they were unreasonable and will apologize. 2. The professor will not apologize, but will acknowledge the timeline of events and will try to not have you go to the department chair over such a stupid act by the professor that can affect his career. 3. The professor will acknowledge the chain of events without apologizing, which you then use when you talk to the department chair. 4. The professor sends a response worthy of going to the department chair by itself, which you then use to go to the department chair. Bad days by professors shouldn't affect our students. If it is a bad day, the professor should make it right. If it's a symptom of being a bad professional, then the higher-up professionals should help rectify this.
5. The professor doesn't respond.
Response 8.
Tons of commenters spews all the real world, if you're on time you're late bullshit. In my entire professional experience, if a call is scheduled at 8 a.m. it starts at 8 a.m. and nobody shows up a moment earlier. No call scheduled at 8:00 am ever started at 7:55. Entire career.
I think the point here is that the quiz started at 8 a.m., not 8 hours 0 minutes and 32 seconds a.m. The class begins at 8, so you need to be there beforehand. Otherwise the schedule would say it starts at 8:01. If your phone rings at exactly 8 a.m. and you walk into your house 30 seconds later, you missed the call. If you had a job interview at 8, you see the point. Of course, I do think this professor is being a bit too strict. Any upstanding human should use some reason when it comes to the rules. Like if you're closing your store and see one more customer just about to make it in, and they are wanting to make a small purchase or whatever. I don't think the professor is wrong, but he still acted in the wrong. Not something he would need to lose his job over though.
Holy fuck. Are we really gonna talk about millisecond technicality in this situation? The professor was being an ass and was wrong. Plain and simple. Man, I don't know what kind of professors you guys have, but almost all my professors would allow students to sit in for quiz test as long as it was before first student finished and turned in their quiz test. In some cases, big test, it could be as late as 30 minutes but you only get the remaining scheduled time to finish your stuff. I thought that was incredibly fair as people do end up being late sometimes despite their best intentions not to. Unless it is a repetitive behavior, shit happens. Edit, also write about that guy in Rate My Professor or some shit like that. Maybe other students will weigh options if they have any.
Response 9.
Remember you're paying them. Take it up higher and tell them this is unacceptable.
Imagine believing this.
Response 10.
I would have absolutely just knocked until they let me in. Making a scene like, hey, let me in, I was on time and I need to take this quiz. I was bitching outside the door and he came out, shut the door, was clearly furious and was like, what did you just say to me? I felt super uncomfortable, like my dad yelling at me as a child, so I just apologized and waited to talk to him after class. He was more mellow then but still unreasonable. 8 a.m. is not considered on time, show up earlier next time, etc. I understand your stance because I would have felt the same way, but he has to understand maybe traffic or something and at least give an 8:05 cutoff. Talk to the dean of students or the head of your department.
Response 11.
Show up a little early next time and try and walk in just as the professor is slamming the door shut. Let the door hit you, now you have a nice lawsuit. Winning.